Have you ever been so exhausted, or so unwell, that you prayed lying down in bed? Think back to a night like that. The day was over. Every bit of strength had left you. Your eyes were closed. Maybe your hand was holding a rosary. Or maybe you had nothing in your hands at all, and you were simply calling out to God from somewhere deep inside. And in that moment, did a quiet question pass through your mind? Is this prayer actually reaching God? Am I being careless? Is He pleased with me when I pray like this? That question is not a small one. Many believers carry it without ever saying it out loud. And the longer someone has been walking in faith, the heavier it can feel. Because we have long been taught that prayer must be done on our knees, with full attention, in the proper posture. So on the days when our bodies will not cooperate, on the nights when we are too tired to rise, the prayer we offer feels somehow incomplete. And that sense of incompleteness turns into guilt. It is at exactly that point that we turn to the story of one saint. Saint Faustina Kowalska was a Polish religious sister of the 20th century. She lived one of the deepest prayer lives anyone has ever known. And yet she also lived in one of the most fragile bodies anyone has ever been given. She spent long stretches of her life confined to bed by illness. Far more nights than we can imagine, she lay in the dark, reaching for God with nothing left to give. And it was in those nights that a truth about prayer began to emerge. A truth most of us have never stopped to consider. One night, Saint Faustina tried to sit up to pray, as she usually did. But that night, she could not get up. Her body was too heavy. Even breathing deeply was difficult. She hesitated. She did not know whether it was all right to pray lying down, or whether she should push herself to rise. In the end, she could not rise. She closed her eyes and began to pray where she was. Her lips could barely form words. All she could do was call out to Jesus in her heart. And then a thought moved through her. Is this prayer even being received? Is God looking at me right now and seeing someone who is not trying hard enough? The thought grew heavier. Her heart grew smaller. She was praying and yet somehow felt as though she was not praying. She looked at herself and saw only what she could not do. At that moment, she could no longer continue. So she said something very short. Almost a whisper. Jesus, I cannot do anything. I am just lying here. And then she said nothing more. She simply stayed in the silence. That was when it happened. Out of that deep silence, the voice of Jesus came to her clearly. I am closer to you now than when you were on your knees. Those words stopped her completely. She could do nothing, and yet in that moment, she understood everything. What God looks at is not our posture. It is our condition, not the form of our prayer, but the truth inside it. We tend to think of prayer as something we perform. We measure it by how long it lasted, how focused we were, how properly we carried ourselves. We judge its value by what we brought to it. But what Saint Faustina discovered that night was something entirely different. Prayer is not the time when we show God what we can do. It is the time when we stand before Him exactly as we are. The most common mistake people make in prayer begins right here. We think we need to pray well. So we try to say more, concentrate harder, get it right. And in that effort, we lose the one thing that matters most. The actual meeting with God. The other mistake is this. While we are praying, we are also constantly evaluating ourselves. Am I doing this right? Am I focused enough? Am I falling short compared to others? These thoughts shrink us. They slowly turn prayer into a burden. Saint Faustina prayed her deepest prayer on the night she could do nothing at all. Because in that moment, she was no longer relying on herself. She had handed herself over to God completely. Her prayer was not long. It was not eloquent. It barely had any words. And yet it was in that silence that the most real encounter took place. Closing. This story puts a question in front of us. Are we praying? Or are we trying to pray? The difference is bigger than it sounds. You will face that moment again. Maybe tonight. A night when your body is too tired to rise. A time when your heart is too heavy for words. A moment when all you can do is lie there with your eyes closed. When that moment comes, do not blame yourself. That is not the moment prayer stops. It may be the moment deeper prayer begins. Just try this one thing. Jesus, I cannot do anything right now. But I want to be with you. That one sentence is enough. Because God is not watching to see how well you pray. He is watching to see how honestly you are seeking Him. Saint Faustina teaches us this. Prayer is not completed in the perfect moment. It is completed in the most broken one. Tonight, if you are exhausted, if you have nothing left to give, do not leave that place. Stay there. Stay in that exact condition. Remain before God. He is already beside you. And when you are at your weakest, He is at His closest. Amen.